Network. And you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Thanks very much for tuning in to Unmissable. I'm Nabila Jamal. I take you through news from India and across the globe. I'm going to take you through our top stories tonight. A very unfortunate incident that's occurred. An air ambulance crashed late last night in Jharkhand. Just after takeoff, barely 20 minutes. It seems like the chartered plane that was used to take a semi-burnt, a 65% burns, a man that who had endured, was being moved for better treatment, and that chopper crashed. We're going to take you through those details because that company that owns that chartered plane has a shady past. How is it still allowed to fly is the question. Also on our top story tonight is NCERT now dropping a bombshell in their chapters, speaking extensively about the corrupt judiciary in India for school children to learn. We're going to take you through those details, and also our top story tonight is Kerala Chief Minister's office have been accused of data theft to benefit in this upcoming elections. What's the story? As always, I start with the headlines first. Stalin bluntly refuses to offer more than 25 seats to the Congress, signalling strain within the Secular Progressive Alliance in Tamil Nadu. 8 arrested, including Youth Congress Chief Uday Bhanu, after the shirtless protest at the Bharat Mantapam AI Summit. Crime Branch claims the protest to be a deep conspiracy. Rahul Gandhi calls Uday his Babbar Sher, taking up for the Youth Congress. Kharge and Rahul Gandhi to lead a mega rally in Bhopal on February 24th, sharpening the attack on the centre's trade policy. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu alleges conspiracy, says nearly 60 lakh kgs of adulterated ghee was supplied to the TTD. He says this in the parliament, in the assembly of the state. SpiceJet flight to Leh returns to Delhi for an emergency landing after one of his engines failed and fire erupted mid-flight, causing huge panic. The passengers were eventually deboarded, but complained of not being informed about the threat or the next course of their route. Finally, the airlines managed to move out of that chaos. Karnataka High Court wraps Ranveer Singh in Kantara mimicry case, says a superstar is not above the law, says you could be whoever, but you've got to control your tongue. Gave him relief though, has in fact quashed any coercive action against him. Exercise Agni Varsha at Pakran demonstrates precision strikes and integrated combat readiness. Indian Army showcasing military prowess. An absolutely tragic incident that came to light. An air ambulance crashed late at night on Monday. Imagine a man who was trying to be moved to a safe hospital area for better treatment, eventually died in a plane crash. 7 lives lost, a life-saving mission. An air ambulance that was flying from Ranchi to Delhi minutes after takeoff crashed. It disappeared from the radar and crashed into the forests of Jharkhand's Chatra district. No survivors, all 7 dead. They never got a second chance. All 7 on board the Redbird Aviation aircraft were proclaimed dead soon after the crash. This was a flying ICU, remember. It was a chartered plane where there was a whole medical team flying a man who had endured 60% burns and was being rushed to a hospital in Delhi. And the fate, the plane that he was being taken crashed. In fact, that plane was entrusted in saving lives. Instead, it became a coffin in the sky. The Beechcraft King Air C90 departed Ranchi around 7:11 p.m. for New Delhi. Contact was lost between 7:34 and 7:36 p.m., barely 20 minutes into the flight. The aircraft had requested a weather-related route diversion as well. The aircraft had requested a weather-related route deviation shortly before going off the radar. It later crashed in a densely forested stretch near Samaria, officials have confirmed. In fact, among the dead are pilots Captain Vivek Vikas Bhagat and Captain Savrajdeep Singh, patient Sanjay Kumar, 41 years of age, who endured 65% burns. He was being taken for treatment. Dr. Vikas Kumar Gupta, paramedic Sachin Kumar Mishra, attendants Archana Devi and Duru Kumar. Their bodies have been taken now to Sadar Hospital in Chatra for post-mortem. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is moving in, expected to seal records, review safety audits and examine Redbird's operational history as well. That's the investigation process now. But this is important for the reason because Redbird does not have a good past. This is not the first time that the operator has faced scrutiny. In May 2023, emergency landing happened with the same aircraft. In fact, Redbird's multiple aircrafts have faced mishaps. October 2023, 2 crash landings were reported in Baramati. October 2023, DGCA suspended training operations of Redbird after multiple incidents were reported. December 2025, training aircraft crash in Sioni as well was reported. Feb 8, 2026, there was a crash near Vijaypura where 2 of them were injured. In fact, at that point, they claimed that they ran out of fuel. And here you have February 23rd, 2026, Jharkhand air crash, the air ambulance that crashed. In 2023, remember, investigators even alleged obstruction of evidence. They blamed this Redbird Aviation of trying to remove off SD cards and CCTV drives, raising some serious accountability concerns that they were probably trying to erase off any kind of proof. The incident after incident and the red flags that have appeared of this Redbird Aviation, how is it that they were still allowed to fly? Operations still continued. Jharkhand Minister for Health, Irfan Ansari, visited the hospital where the bodies lie. 7 families wait, 7 homes shattered. Irfan Ansari, of course, feeling absolutely sad. Irfan Ansari says that, it's sad that people have to move out of Jharkhand to get treatment. He is now going to build Asia's biggest hospital. But why did we have to wait for a crash like this for the system to act? Let's listen in.
20 साल पहले ही हॉस्पिटल बन जाना चाहिए। हम तो 1 साल पहले हम मंत्री बने हैं, 1 साल में तो हॉस्पिटल बनेगा नहीं, लेकिन मैं बना रहा हूं तो लोग विरोध कर रहे हैं। तो जो लोग विरोध कर रहे हैं मैं उनको कहना चाहता हूं, थोड़ा मुझे समर्थन दे, सपोर्ट करें मुझे। मैं हॉस्पिटल बनाना चाहता हूं, झारखंड में एशिया का सबसे बड़ा हॉस्पिटल मैं बना रहा हूं, लेकिन लोग विरोध कर रहे हैं, हमारे नेता लोग विरोध कर रहे हैं। तो कब तक हम लोग इस तरह की घटना सहते रहे? कब तक एक बाप के आंसू देखते रहे, एक माँ की पीड़ा देखते रहे, एक बहन के आंसू हम लोग देखते रहे? उस आंसू को रोकना चाहता हूं मैं, लेकिन मैं चाहता हूं मुझे सपोर्ट करें आप। एक्सपर्ट लोग आ रहे हैं, 12:30 बजे तक दिल्ली से भी टीम आ रही है, वो लोग जांच करेंगे, उसके बाद पता चलेगा कि व्हाट इज द फैक्ट, रियल फैक्ट क्या है, उसके बाद विल टॉक।
You have opposition leaders asking who's going to be held accountable after this crash as well. Will regulators answer? The patient's family had reportedly borrowed nearly 8 lakhs for the evacuation. Their only hope for survival was they wanted to move their loved one from that hospital in Ranchi that wasn't able to treat their child and try to move him to a Delhi hospital, but alas, 41-year-old man with 65% burns wanted to move from the Ranchi hospital to go to Delhi for better treatment, and here it turned out to be a death knell for him. This crash comes amid rapid growth in India's aviation sector. Huge growth in India's private aviation sector, driven by corporate travel and medical evacuations. The fleet has now risen, we hear in India now, from 120 private jets that we have, projected to reach nearly 700 by 2029. The market is only expanding and expected to grow by $3.16 billion in 2024 to nearly $5.9 billion by 2035. That's the growth we're looking at. Is growth really outpacing safety oversight? Why was an operator with repeated safety concerns allowed to conduct critical medical evaluations and evacuations here? Was this a tragic accident or just a disaster waiting to happen? Let me quickly bring in Captain Prashant Dalla, former Flight Operations Inspector, DGCA. We also have Captain S.S. Panesar, aviation expert and former Director of Flight Safety, Indian Airlines. Squadron Leader Akshay Chopra, an aviation expert, joining us. Thanks very much, all of you. My first question, Captain Prashant Dalla, on if this this airline had such a shady past. Now, it could very well be possible it was the weather condition that ultimately led to the plane crash. But still, we don't even know if the flight was fit enough, if it was operated keeping in mind the protocols of the aviation sector, the guidelines that they should ideally be following. We don't even know if they've followed all of it to the T because of the history they have, the number of accidents that have happened in the past. How are they still allowed to fly?
Nabila, while the entire country is in a state of anxiety and stress because of this growing number of fatalities and aircraft accidents, for the sake of your viewers and for the sake of clarity, I must state on record that Redbird Airways is having a different non-scheduled operator permit. It has no relevance or correlation with the Redbird Flying Training Organization. That is under a different license, a different directorate. One. Secondly, a very important point you have raised is that the growing trajectory of Indian aviation. We are the third largest. We will soon be the second. And as time would have it, with the growing numbers, we would be the number one in the entire world. Having said that, safety is a very dynamic concept. We have the National Aviation Safety Program, NASP, which is starting 2024 till 2028. In that gamut, the operator, the regulator, and the OEMs are having various deliberations. Like I have said before, it is a dynamic concept. It will have new emerging technology agreements, more number of pilots being generated, emphasis would be done on training. Now, coming to this particular issue, 3 A's are very important to understand.
Yeah.
One is the aircraft, second, the aircrew, and third is the airport. Aircraft is undoubtedly a more than 30-year-old aircraft. It will have its own issues. It's a machine end of the day. Aircrew, we have to see, were these pilots trained? Was there a human error involved in this particular issue? That is all a matter of investigation. Third is the airport. In this case, Ranchi. Was the proper clearance given to the aircraft? Was it under influence of weather? Please understand, all these medical flights are all unplanned travel. They are last minute. You will have a go in less than 2 to 3 hours. So there is a tremendous amount of pressure on the organization, on the operator, and also the hospital and the local administration will also, try and create a pressure for the pilots.
So you're saying that the Redbird that has had a history of crashes in the past is not the same Redbird that handles this air ambulance?
That's very right. That is a matter of record. It is under the purview of DGCA. There are 2 different directorates handling 2 different licenses. It has no correlation whatsoever.
Okay. So this particular Redbird Aviation that's handling this air ambulance has got a good history. Do we know if that's true?
Well, it is not would be appropriate for me to comment on your channel about this. It is a matter of the regulator to carry out those audits and to check their past history as well as the present history, present condition of the aircraft from 2 aspects. One, the operations. Second, the airworthiness. You see, we must understand the regulator has been having repeated audits. Just till about 3 months back, I'm forgetting the fateful date wherein we lost the Honorable Deputy CM of Maharashtra, Mr. Pawar. The regulator had issued a statement and a special safety audit was carried. In that, Redbird Airways was also one of the NSOP operators which had undergone that particular audit.
If I could ask Akshay Chopra on that, what's your take on the fast expanding private jet sector itself that's touted to be nearly about 5.9 billion in the next few years. That's the growth that we're looking at. That's what's projected. And at a time like this, in this fast growing industry, are we seeing a lack of oversight, lack of vigil?
Nabila, looking at the current the scenario which the crash today, I can't add this particular point at this stage. So as Captain Dhalla also said, firstly the Redbird Aviation aircraft of which this particular the company for which this aircraft was operating and the training school are two different entities, and there is no previous fatal crash record for the Redbird Airways. It's already operating around 6 to 7 different air ambulances and charter aircraft, which includes the Beechcraft, which crashed, and then you have the Embraer, Falcon, Dassault, and then the Cessna series. So it has a number of aircrafts, and they're operating quite frequently for various VIP charter aircrafts, or they're operating for air ambulances. And at this particular stage also, what we need to look into is this scenario in which such a situation happened. So when this aircraft was flying, because it's a smaller aircraft, it's more susceptible to the weather changes which happen. And because in this particular part of India, at this particular stage, especially in the evenings, the weather deteriorates very fast, and the crew knew it. And as Captain Dhalla said, when the air ambulances are supposed to operate, they're at a very short notice, and there's a lot of emergency. With a person with 65% burns, the family was under tremendous pressure to save his life, and so was the crew. So when they took off, they had quite a bit of information about the weather en route. But now what could have possibly happened that during the flight at that particular stage, maybe being a shorter aircraft, smaller aircraft, there's a massive downdraft, massive amount of turbulence which they could have encountered, because of which there was no last minute call also. The only call was of the diversion, and then there was no more calls, and the aircraft was found in the crash was in the forest. So this was a possible scenario which we can make.
When an aircraft requests a weather deviation, what does that mean? If the pilot has said they want a weather deviation, what does that exactly mean? Because right after that call was made, minutes after that, the aircraft disappeared.
Yeah. So whenever we are flying, look, all the aircrafts are having weather radars, on their panels, and which clearly shows the weather in for the kilometers ahead. Can be 25 to 50 to 100 kilometers depending on the weather radar. And if are en route, the route which we have filed, and we are flying at a particular route, and we find that okay, there is weather ahead, there are very strong clouds or cumulonimbus clouds, thunderstorms, then we ask for diversion or deviation. So we may turn left or right depending on which side the weather is clear, and we can just take a different route towards our destination. But in case the weather is extreme and we know that okay, there is no other way, then we either turn back to the previous from the place we have taken off, or to a different diversion. We have all filed for that. So this is how we ask for deviation during the flight.
But like Captain Dhalla said, this is a different company altogether. Then our story changes. In that sense, I can't say for certain if this company had a shady past. If it's not the same company. Are you sure about it, Captain Dhalla, that the company that has had multiple crashes in the past is not the same company that owns this aircraft?
That's right, Nabila. It is primarily the case. However, safety should be kept on priority, be it so that it is the same company or a different parent company. And like Squadron Leader Chopra has just mentioned, the deviation is an exercise for which the pilot, who is a trained professional, is properly, given that amount of training. And we can corroborate this fact that he has taken the right weather deviation is that one, the weather radar of the aircraft was working. That is how you first ask for the deviation. I was initially, when, making my notes for this particular issue, was under the impression that there can be a faulty equipment in this aircraft, being an old machine. However, when the pilot has taken the weather deviation, that has been, we are talking about somewhere post sunset. So the ambience around is dark. So you have to rely on your instruments. In that case, the weather radar should have been working, and that is why the pilot has taken the right deviation. Now it is a matter of investigation. Was it a downdraft? Was it a stall? or was it a control loss of flight? There are multiple factors involved in an aviation accident.
That said, would you give us a sense of what additional safety protocols that air ambulances should ideally take? Is there anything additional that is, a cut away from the rest of the commercial flights?
It's a very important question you have raised. So it is not mandatory for a non-scheduled operator to have an aeromedical permit. We call it AMP. There is a proper certification process wherein the regulator has to prove their, preparedness. The regulator will do a tabletop exercise in that. That is when, after a proper scrutiny of their manuals, their pilots' training, the aircraft capabilities, the AMP approval is given to an operator.
Okay. It's absolutely tragic. The mother and the family borrowed about 8 lakhs to pay for this chartered flight. And it's just sad. I mean, they don't have a hospital in Ranchi that could have treated the man, that they had to be moved there. Then what happens to the other patients, I don't know. If this family borrowed it, they probably had the capacity to borrow. There are people who can't. I mean, are these aircrafts even accessible? 7 lakhs for that one flight. How does that really work? Give me a little about the cost dynamics there, Squadron Akshay Chopra, if you could help me with that.
Look, so it depends on the condition and so as you initially also asked whether these type of air ambulances are going to grow in the future. The answer is absolutely it will, and this is because it's also one of the fastest ways to transfer the patient, especially in such a critical condition. Because the demand is increasing, and in places where there is no hospital nearby, the condition is very critical. The family has sometimes have no option. Now, as we know from the news that this family was not a very prosperous family, they've actually borrowed the money at that particular stage. And whether it's charter flight, whether it's an air ambulance, they do cost money, and there are a lot of other expenses involved because these are private players. And then at this critical stage, we are not very sure whether the prices are actually fixed for these companies. Also,
as per demand.
Yeah. No, I'll not say it's as per demand. In a way, yes. In certain cases, it can be. But then at that particular point of time, some families have no option left. They have to give in to the demands.
Yeah, Captain Dalla, you were nodding. Is there any cap on air ambulances, or can they arbitrarily increase as they want to, as per demand?
I think Squadron Leader Chopra is absolutely right in saying it is uncontrolled, untapped. You will have these last-minute exchanges for these flights to be carried out. I have some data with me wherein the money is to the tune of lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and there is no guarantee of life. The payment is made upfront. It is before departure. You have to pay. And imagine the state of affairs of that family. My heart goes out to them. They've lost a patient in an aircraft accident. It is nerve-wracking, and I'm sure the regulator and the operator at large will provide them assistance in the form of the insurance claim. And it is actually alarming. And just till about 7 p.m., there was a release of a statement by the Honorable Minister of Civil Aviation that the matter would be taken at the highest level. And there are certain guidelines which are already in place. I'm sure the regulators would unite for a common cause of safety, as this would affect their business as well as the public sentiment.
But just a quick one. If the weather was harsh, shouldn't they have known about it before takeoff?
You see, Nabila, nothing is static in aviation. You will have
I agree, but then that's something that I would expect as a commoner for the aviation experts to understand better than me, right? If a pilot should gauge it.
That's right. And like I said, pilots are trained for it. Pilots are trained to read the weather charts. Pilots are trained to understand the notices given to the. They have the flight plan. They have the idea about the fuel. All these trainings are done at a very elementary level.
Yeah.
And when you are doing operations at this scale, wherein you are a aero medical pilot, you have to take such split-second decisions. And having said that, there is no sorry in aviation. You will never have a time to say sorry. It is a split-second decision, and I'm sure the pilot would have done justice at that particular instance, though it was a very tragic end.
But the aviation sector is really keeping a close eye on this rapidly expanding private jet stream. Would you believe that we are keeping up with it, with the growth?
Not really. You still have 40-50% of staff shortage in such organizations, and it is high time that the country realizes the requirements of some nice subject matter experts to join the government bodies. And I'm sure the government of India will, try the level best to have these civil aviation authorities in place and have the right involvement of these pilot bodies and the engineer bodies to have a safe environment.
Yeah. Squadron Leader Akshay Chopra, your take, the family spending lakhs of it now, all of them, 7 of them dead and gone. Do you believe that this will wake up the regulatory bodies? I found out from you that the Redbird is not the same Redbird that owns this aircraft. I did not even know. That's how much the company has now been, the company that owns this aircraft has been confused for the other one. Now, does that mean the other one will be banned? Because we are asking serious questions. The other one is probably still operating, right?
No. So it's not that. Look, we are all waiting. We will all wait for the final investigation report to come in and then see exactly what happened. But this is, if you know that back in 2011 also there was a Pilatus crash, which was also an air ambulance. It crashed in Haryana, and 10 people died with 7 on board, 3 on the ground, and that was exactly this with virtually similar conditions of weather, wherein during landing the aircraft crashed. This is the same thing here. All the pilots who are flying beforehand, they know very well of most of the weather en route. The ATC is well in contact, and they are in contact with the ATC of all, and they're able to see all the weather through the weather radars and everything. But then, as Captain Dhalla was saying, look, aviation is a very unforgiving sector in certain cases. You cannot predict weather at some places, despite of being one of the, even if you're a very experienced pilot, certain things are beyond your control. At this particular situation, we need to also take in the psychological mindset of the pilot who's carrying a person who's at a very critical stage. So his aim was to somehow reach the destination. Now, en route, exactly what happened, we need to know, because he had already given a call and there was no second call before the crash. There was no mayday call or any such call. So we have to see what exactly happened at which stage due to weather, because which the aircraft crashed.
All right. We've got to wait and watch for the investigation to complete, but our condolences going out to the family. It's just tragic this happened. It's probably the first of its kind that we've heard, an air ambulance crash, and all 7 dead. And I should tell you that today was a very dark day for the aviation sector all over the world, I feel, because there were multiple crashes that were reported. And those crashes where the craft fell into the water, like the Andaman, they all survived. So it's just sad, it's unlucky, it's tragic, and condolences to the family. I really appreciate you joining us here tonight. Thank you. A quick break. We'll be right back with our top story. And NCERT, school textbooks now have to study the judiciary, and there's a lot of talk around the textbook suggesting how the judiciary in India could be corrupt. The first time that school children will be reading something like that. Stay with us.
रश्मि, ये मैडम बड़े शहर से छोटे शहर बसने जा रही है, बताओ।
छोटे छोटे शहरों में ही तो है बड़े बड़े अखाड़े।
नए नए दावपेच सीखेगी और फ्यूचर में मेडल जीतेगी। पर बेटा, इनका फ्यूचर?
बड़े पापा, SBI लाइफ से इनका फ्यूचर सिक्योर है।
अभी तो इसकी जीत का इरादा पक्का है। करो पूरे अपने इरादे,
अपनों से किए सभी वादे।
SBI लाइफ अपने लिए,
अपनों के लिए।
Opus Paints. भारत की सबसे बड़ी गोल्ड लोन एनबीएफसी मुथूट फाइनेंस से गोल्ड लोन लीजिए और फिर देखिए सोना क्या नहीं कर सकता। कॉल कीजिए 1-800-313-1212।
हाय हेलो नमस्ते कुजुजांको। इस वक्त मैं हूँ गांगते मोनेस्ट्री में। इन खूबसूरत वादियों को देखकर मुझे हमारी बॉलीवुड की एक फिल्म याद आ रही है। तब कुछ लोगों ने विराट और अनुष्का को पहचाना।
Welcome back. Well, for the first time in India, we're looking at school children learning about the judiciary. And they're not just learning about how important the judiciary is, that it's one of the pillars and it secures justice. It also explains how the judiciary in India can be corrupt. A new Class 8 social science book by the NCERT is sparking a national conversation for the first time. It tells students in India that the justice system, which is essential, is also facing some serious challenges. The new chapter, which is called The Role of the Judiciary in Our Society, does more than just explain the courts. It talks about corruption, talks about delays in cases and accountability. It explains the code of conduct for judges, internal oversight, and even mentions the CPGRAMS, the government system basically which citizens can use to file complaints. Earlier textbooks did not directly address any of these issues. Students are told the scale of pending cases as well, which outlines how about 81,000 cases are pending in the Supreme Court, about 62 lakh cases pending in the High Court, nearly 4.7 crore cases pending in district and subordinate courts. The book explains delays happen due to shortage of judges, due to complex procedures, weak infrastructure and corruption at some levels. Between 2017 and 2021, over 1,600 complaints were filed through the grievance system. Former Chief Justice B.R. Gavai is quoted saying corruption erodes public trust and transparency is essential. So now children as young as 13 in India are learning that justice systems are strong but not perfect. Now, is this transparency or is this unsettling? Well, should children be learning about something like this? Is this in the right direction? In fact, the new textbook also revises how history is explained. It states that Mahatma Gandhi and most Congress leaders opposed partition but eventually accepted it and gave up and decided that that's the only way forward. Earlier books described partition as more or less inevitable. The chapter also expands the freedom struggle narrative. It says independence was not due to Gandhi alone. It credits multiple factors like popular uprisings, revolutionary moments, and mutinies in the Royal Indian Navy and Air Force. Events like Direct Action Day, Odisha's Paika Rebellion also included in those chapters. Earlier books were criticized for overlooking regional uprisings. Now, these changes are part of textbook revisions under the National Education Policy 2020 and the National Curriculum Framework of 2023. Now, books for class 1 to 8 have been developed so far. So, is NCERT strengthening civic awareness by presenting hard realities, or are textbooks now becoming spaces for political interpretation? Should an 8th standard student learn about corruption in these institutions that are supposed to be pure and to safeguard its citizen? Well, let me quickly bring in our guests joining us for a little more. In fact, we have a senior advocate on the panel, Dr. Rajiv Nanda of Supreme Court of India. We also have Professor Kapil Kumar, historian, and also Dr. Jyoti Gupta, director and principal, K.R. Mangalam World School. Thanks very much, all of you, for joining us. Ma'am, let me start with the principal on the panel, Dr. Jyoti Gupta. What's your take on students as young as 13 having to learn about the corrupt judiciary, having to learn that Mahatma Gandhi probably wasn't the only man who fought for our freedom struggle?
I would say that the children should not be kept away from the facts. Today, content is not as important as concept. So the children will know the content anyways. You can't hide any content from them. There are numerous ways that the children can read the content. They can read, the facts. So what is there in the textbook is not the only source of information for the children today. So the facts should be laid down in front of the children. Those facts can be painful facts. Those facts can be in contradiction to what the children have known earlier. Or if we are trying to tell them about corruption even at the age of 13, why should the children not know? So the complete brain develops when the child is only 7 years old. Today, the child at 13 is on the digital platforms, is on social media, it knows what is happening, is a part of the conversations on the dining table. There is corruption that the children see around them all the time. The family is talking about it, the family is facing the corruption. There are n number of people in the family around, in the community, who are suffering. There are movies which are made on this. So the children are already exposed to it. So why can't the children go through it even in the textbooks and then critically think as to how to provide the solution to the real world problems? This is a real world problem that is there in our country. So it is this generation which is going to be taking the country towards Viksit Bharat. So if they will not identify the problems, then who else will?
But, you know, institutions like the judiciary, one has absolute faith. To have class 8 children doubt the institution, you know, what happens to that trust in these institutions? Don't you think that's eroding that basic trust that one should ideally have in the system?
I don't think so. I mean, the textbook is not kind of eroding that trust, but it is putting the facts there.
Okay.
And it is, a competency that we have to give to the children. The communication, the collaboration, the critical thinking, and the creativity. Let the children be aware of what is happening around. And then we should leave it to them to critically think about it and to create new knowledge out of it, or to create solutions about it. So I am not averse or against the idea of telling the children, it is age appropriate, absolutely, about what is happening in the country. And it is quite comparable to the content that is transacted around the world. So whether we look at global perspectives or we look at the curriculum of the other countries, it is pretty much there, even there. So I don't think we are turning the children against this institution that is revered and that is very, very important.
Okay, Professor Kapil, you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, well, I'd like to go a step further on what Jyoti has said. You see, it is not only essential to teach them, and you are raising a question that to teach that there is corruption will raise doubts about the authenticity and the jurisdiction of these institutions. Please, since 47, we have kept very high honor for them without criticizing these organizations, what went in there in these organizations of judiciary, and that is where we stand today with a total corrupt judiciary. My thing is, it is not only just the judiciary's corruption part which is to be highlighted, but because everyone knows the problem, from a lower court up to session courts, high court, Supreme Court. It is a collective responsibility to suggest and deliberate upon the measures that need to be taken. And I have a few measures to tell you if you have time for me to say on that. First thing I'll say, the judges. Now they get their salaries from public funds. It is mine and your money for which they get their salaries. So every public servant has a code of conduct. There are serious conduct rules. There are inquiry against them can be held. Disciplinary action can be taken against them. Why are the judges exempt from that? You've seen recently that judge case where crores of rupees were burnt and found and all. What has happened? Where has the case disappeared? So why no action against them? Why is not judiciary accountable? Why, if I am accountable, if I was a professor, I do something wrong in my organization, I'll be suspended, my increment can be stopped, all kind of punishments can be given to me. And I'll give you one example. Recently of a channel you had seen in Punjab, that against a reporter, all kinds of charges had been brought from SC/ST Act to whatnot. And the session court accepted those charges by the police. And it was the High Court who gave the bail and said that these charges are wrong, they were wrongly framed, and the lower court was wrong. Then if a judge sitting in the lower court has given the wrong decision and flouted the law, why no disciplinary action against that law, that judge? I can understand these kind of situations. You see, what is required today, I wrote a letter, 7-page letter to the Chief Justice of India, in which I said that what is required is 4 judicial commissions for each level of judiciary, because the problems are very different. Now, my second point in this comes to a code of conduct for lawyers. Sir, with due respect on my other panelist lawyers are, some ethics has to be there. One, husband goes, he wants to divorce his wife. And he says, we can't get along. Now, what suggestions he is given? No, by this you will not go get a divorce. Put up some charges that she misbehaves with your parents, she has boyfriends, she had boyfriend earlier, then only you will get a divorce. Same is given to the girl. If a girl goes and says,
I understand. What you're basically trying to say is that the judiciary is not as straightforward as it should be.
Judiciary is not accountable, it should be made accountable.
Okay.
So should be the lawyers.
No, but then so should be politicians, so should be doctors, so should be bureaucrats. Why aren't those chapters in the books?
I am coming to it, not only social. I am as a citizen to be responsible. Because when I go to a lawyer, you know what the first thing a personal client thinks? Oh, which lawyer should I take? Which lawyer has good connections with the judiciary, with the judge? Who can take my case forward? Me also. Politicians too.
But giving up hope like that, I mean, whatever injustice happens to you at whatever point, the only faith you have is that, I can go to court, I will get justice. That's the faith one has. I mean, you're saying it's better to have that, have that faith crushed young so that you don't have expectations when you're actually fighting a case older.
I'll give you a personal experience. I raised a voice against these private universities and all, and won a case in Delhi High Court. The result of that was that the corrupt judiciary and the corrupt bureaucrats in the ministry filed a forged case against me. And I was called by the lower court, take bail. I said, what bail? This is the case against you. I said, plus verify that these are my signatures. My signatures have been forged.
Okay. No, I understand. I mean, I could list out many cases that I have not been happy about, that I've reported on and that have not gone the way it should have.
It is a question of manipulation in the system which goes
on. But my question only is, okay, fine, the judiciary is corrupt and there have been cases of corruption that's now surfaced in recent past. But what about politicians? Why don't we have a chapter on corrupt politicians?
I'm saying this, bhai. It's an excess.
So then my limited point here is this a tool?
I'm not saying politicians are above board. In fact, the politicians should be the first to have a code of conduct.
Correct. So now that that's missing, and then you have history chapters now being rewired and reworked, do you believe this is a tool politicians are using?
Let me tell you on history. Please correct yourself, and I challenge any historian in this country and any politician in this country who say that on 15th August we got independence. We got dominion status. Do you know that? Gazette of India, 14th August, pick it up. London Gazette, 24th June 1948, it says, from today, the Emperor of England abdicates its throne of India. The letter of Nehru when Rajagopalachari is appointed. I, the President of your Dominion, Prime Minister of your Dominion, on behalf of the Cabinet of your Dominion of India, request you to permit me to appoint Rajagopalachari if we were independent. Why should we take King's permission to appoint Rajagopalachari again? I gave you 100. I was called in the Culture Ministry. What are you saying? I said, I am not saying. These are the official documents. From last so many years we have heard, Dedi, hame azadi bina khadak bina adhal, as you are saying, Gandhi. Did Gandhi give independence? And if there is no difference between dominion status and independence, then why did Gandhi oppose in 1928 Calcutta session when Bose wanted for complete independence to be included and Gandhi said no dominion status?
So you're saying the historic omissions have now been corrected. You're agreeing with
These
this?
are not omission and they are not being corrected. NCERT is just now even doing a foolish job. They want to fight Macaulay. And you know whom they have as history editor? They have that Michel Dumelo or something who has nothing to do with modern Indian history.
So you're saying they're doing it but doing a shoddy job?
Shoddy job, yes.
Okay. Dr. Rajiv Nanda, can I bring you in? It's about the judiciary and I'd like your take on this. You're a senior advocate with the Supreme Court and this kind of, institutional respect that the students have had all through years of growing up. I believe the judiciary was pure and would give me justice. I still believe so, that there are few bad apples in all fields. But here, specifically on the courts, there's a chapter. What's your take on that?
It's amazing that NCERT has this kind of chapter in their course books. I don't say that there are no black sheeps in any system, but in the Indian judicial system, let us first have some facts and then talk about it. The judges, we are crossing almost 140 crores as population. The judge population in India is 20 judges to 1 million, that is 10 lakhs. Whereas in any developed society, the least requirement is 100 judges per million, which we don't have. We don't have the judicial infrastructure. And then to blame the judges that because of the delay is attributed to the lack of judge population, and then to attribute this delay and say that the judges are corrupt. I'm so sorry. This is destabilizing the faith in the pillar of democracy, the third pillar of democracy. Judiciary is the most powerful and the present system in India. This is the only pillar in which public still has some faith. This is scandalizing the judicial system. I don't agree here that the delay or pendency, long pendency can be attributed to the corruption part of it. I am not saying that there may not be corrupt judges. There may be corrupt judges, but to directly attribute such kind of delay to them, it is unpardonable and scandalizing. Do
you say this is a political tool? Do you believe this is done with intention?
This is, of course, this is done with a political tone. This is competition between the three pillars of democracy. This is certainly, and NCERT is playing as tool in the hands of the other two, the wings. This is very unfortunate if such kind of chapters are being introduced in NCERT. Uncalled for. I'm not saying please don't educate the children. They have the right, and it is a era of internet. They have the access. Even if you don't tell them, they'll have the access. Correct. But please don't misinform them.
Even doctors, that's a noble profession. Doctors are corrupt. The kind of scams that come out from hospitals is baffling. Maybe every stream should have reflected in the NCERT textbook.
And it is not that they don't have. The judges also have the code of conduct. It is not that the judge against whom the recent allegations are there, he has been left scot-free. Maybe there is a delay which cannot be discussed in public. There is accountability for judges also. It is not that they are with no accountability. They are with accountability. There is a judicial system within, the mechanism within. I mean, everything is not to be told as to what are the baby steps being taken to punish the corrupt judges. But there is a punishment process which takes place in every time a judicial indiscipline is found. Every incorrect decision is not corruption, mind it. It is only application of mind to given facts. Then
and the number of cases of backlog that's been mentioned, then in that case, we'll have to keep revising these year on year.
See, number of cases is not only less judicial population, but also the judicial awareness which has become grown in the 140 crores population. We have become more and more vigilant of our rights. We can't, judiciary alone cannot handle it. There has to be big infrastructure to deal with such kind of
So you believe this is a political tool? NCERT books have been designed, based on narratives, present political narratives.
Of course, yes. It is. Of course, yes. NCERT is being used as a tool.
All right. That's all I have time for. Thanks very much. I really appreciate all of you joining us here tonight. All right. Let me quickly cut across to our top stories on day tonight. Let's start with the big decision on the state of Kerala's name. Kerala could soon be called Keralam, a historic correction of the colonial legacy or a massive pre-poll masterstroke. That's what people ask. The map of India is set for a constitutional makeover. In a landmark move, the Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has officially cleared the proposal to rename Kerala as Keralam. This is not just a change of letters, it's a significant nod to the linguistic and cultural identity of Malayalam-speaking people, fulfilling a long-standing demand that dates back to the national independence struggle. BJP has hailed this as a proud day for Malayalis, but Thiruvananthapuram Congress MP Shashi Tharoor says otherwise. He, in fact, asks for the denizens of the new Keralam. The word Keralamite sounds like a microbe, and Keralamian like a rare earth mineral. That was more or less his response. The decision was announced by Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, set in the motion the Kerala Alteration of Name Bill 2026. This legal journey now heads to the desk of President Draupadi Murmu, who will refer it back to the State Assembly before it lands in the Parliament for a final constitutional amendment. The timing, however, is impossible to ignore. The 2026 Assembly elections in Kerala is just around the corner. This rare moment of political convergence between the persistent LDF government and the consenting centre marks a defining shift in the state's narrative. From the halls of the newly inaugurated Seva Tirth to the streets of Thiruvananthapuram, the message is, of course, the identity of Keralam is finally taking its official seat at the constitutional table. While the administrative boundaries remain the same, the symbolic weight of this change is immense. We will be tracking the reactions from all political quarters as the bill moves to the next stage. But, well, it seems like a nod, cabinet nod from the centre has come in. Kerala to soon be named Keralam. A legal and political firestorm is brewing in Kerala, one that could really tilt the terrain of the 2026 Assembly elections. Is the state's digital backbone being weaponized for political gain? That's the explosive question now before the Kerala High Court. The court today came down heavily on the Pinarayi Vijayan administration, demanding an immediate explanation for what appears to be a staggering breach of privacy. At the center of the storm is Spark, the Service and Payroll Administration Repository for Kerala, which is the digital backbone that processes salaries and maintains employee records. The allegation is serious. The private mobile numbers, it says basically that private mobile numbers and email IDs submitted strictly for payroll purposes were accessed without consent and used for outreach that carried political messaging. Basically, the CMO's office used this data to reach out right ahead of elections there for political purposes. And at the heart of this controversy, 5 lakh government employees, judicial officers and welfare beneficiaries, all of them recently received a personalized WhatsApp message complete with the Chief Minister's photograph touting a 10% DA hike. But here's the catch, nobody gave the CMO their number for this campaign list. So how did they get it? The allegation is that the government bypassed every constitutional safeguard, allegedly harvesting private data from the Spark payroll system to build a massive unsolicited election machine. In fact, the court is now asking under what authority was this data accessed. The petitioners allege that this was no ordinary communication. They claim official data was repurposed for political messaging ahead of the May 2026 elections. The opposition is calling it data theft. Government calls it communication. But as the 2026 polls now loom, the High Court has made it quite clear privacy is not a secondary concern. The government now has a deadline to explain how a system meant for salaries turned into a platform for political outreach. Is a homemaker just an idle wife? Does the labor of a homemaker really mean nothing while the husband who is employed and bringing in money matter more? Well, A Delhi court ruling could change the trajectory of thousands of matrimonial disputes currently pending across India. In a significant observation on the economic value of unpaid domestic work, the High Court has said that disregarding the contribution of a homemaker, a housewife, is unjust because that contribution enables the earning spouse to function effectively. Justice Swarna Kanta Sharma has declared that the labor of a homemaker is anything but idle. It is, in fact, the invisible framework that keeps the Indian family and economy standing. The court's observations come during a maintenance hearing for an estranged wife, where it rejected the husband's argument that his well-qualified spouse didn't deserve support because she did not work. She was just a homemaker. The court's message was blunt: managing a household, raising children, adjusting one's life around a spouse's career are all forms of labor. This work does not show up on bank statements or tax returns, of course, but it has undeniable economic value. Justice Sharma noted that it is unjust to expect a woman who sacrificed her life, her career, for her family to suddenly re-enter the workforce at the same level years later. By awarding 50,000 monthly in maintenance, the High Court has sent a clear signal here to lower courts and the country that women's contribution to her home is indeed a job, even if it's unpaid, and the law will no longer look the other way. We have a shocking story from Lucknow next, where academic pressure ended in a cold-blooded act of patricide. A 19-year-old student who was reportedly under pressure to clear the national eligibility cum entrance test NEET from his father shot him dead and then chopped his body into pieces. Akshat Pratap Singh, a first-year BCom student, has been arrested for allegedly killing his father after an argument over studies and career expectations. The accused, Akshat, was reportedly under pressure to clear NEET examination despite being enrolled in a commerce degree. Police say that during a heated exchange, the teenager allegedly used his father's licensed rifle and fired at him at close range. The ricochet bullet recovered from the room suggested that the shot was fired in confined space. The victim, his father, 49-year-old Manvendra Singh, a businessman who ran pathology labs and liquor shops, was found dismembered inside his own house. So he shot him and after that chopped his body. His torso was concealed in a blue plastic drum. Other body parts were recovered from different floors of the residence. Police say that violence erupted at around 4:30 a.m. on February 22nd, fueled by a heated argument. But what followed wasn't just a moment of rage, it was a 4-day descent into darkness. Akshat allegedly dismembered his own father's body into pieces with a saw, concealing the torso in a blue plastic drum, while his younger sister, a class 11 student, was reportedly threatened into terrified silence within the same walls. From filling a fake missing persons report to eventually claiming it was a suicide, Akshat's web of lies finally unraveled when confronted by the family and friends. Lucknow police recover the weapon and the tools used in this grisly crime. A city is left shocked and asking, how does the pressure to succeed turn home into a slaughterhouse? Now, really shocking story that's coming in from Bhopal. From a slum dwelling to a luxury villa, and now at the center of a chilling criminal probe. In Bhopal, two sisters who once lived in Abbasnagar slum have been arrested after police uncovered their disturbing network built on the exploitation of vulnerable young women. Investigators say Amreen and Afreen recently shifted to an upscale home in Sagar Royal Villas, a fancy villa, a move suspected to have been funded through illegal earnings. Police allege these sisters lured girls from economically weaker backgrounds with promises of domestic jobs, with promise to pay them 10,000 rupees as salaries, giving them food and accommodation and a high-profile lifestyle. Instead, the complainants claim that they were drawn into parties, social gatherings where they were pressured to mingle with wealthy men, coerced into consuming alcohol and drugs, and in some instances were drugged and sexually assaulted. Two women aged 21 and 32 filed separate complaints against these sisters, strikingly similar accounts. One, a beautician from Chhattisgarh, who alleges that she was taken to Ahmedabad on pretext of work and was raped by an associate, with further assaults by others. In fact, another girl, a Bhopal resident, employed as a maid with these sisters, alleges that she was raped, threatened and intimidated. One victim also claimed forced conversion. According to the FIR, one victim said that she was pressured to convert, to wear a burqa, offer prayers and was promised to get her married into a good family. Well, police are now examining all of these angles. These claims under relevant legal provisions are being looked into. Officials say mobile phones seized from the accused revealed suspicious WhatsApp groups as well, containing photographs of multiple young women, raising fears of a wider interstate network. Victims alleged they were transported to Gujarat, Mumbai, photographed in compromising situations, and were also blackmailed so that they don't leave or complain. 3 other accused remain absconding. The police are now probing financial trails, travel records, digital communication to determine the scale of this operation. Investigators stress that all allegations are currently under examination. A quick look at the censor board. In fact, the censor board has asked the makers of the Kerala Story 2 to add a disclaimer stating the film is based on true events. The CBFC has also asked the makers to submit documents to support scenes claimed to be based on true events. This comes just as the Kerala High Court has raised serious concerns about the film's teaser and the trailer. Court says we must watch the film first before it's released to public. Justice Bichu Kurian Thomas observed that the filmmakers appear to have wrongly portrayed the people of Kerala. He said that the people of Kerala live in harmony and uphold secularism, but the film portrays them wrongly. The court has also noted that the filmmakers claim it is a pan-India story, but then they've used the Kerala title. In fact, it said the apprehensions of people in the state cannot be ignored and warned the makers that this could lead to communal tension. The bench directed that the film now be screened before the court on Wednesday and asked the centre to come up with the instructions in the post-lunch session. The court was, in fact, hearing petitions challenging the censor certification granted to the Kerala Story 2, alleging that it maligns and stereotypes Kerala and its people. The film has a running time of 131 minutes and 24 seconds and received a UA 16+ certificate after the CBFC suggested 16 modifications. Censor board has asked the makers of Kerala Story to chop off nearly 50% of the scenes which show women being slapped, beaten, raped, and have also cut off lip-locking scenes by half. Scenes showing demolition of an accused person's house using a bulldozer were also removed. Several dialogues were also changed and certain words muted. Meanwhile, filmmaker Sudipto Sen has said he is not directing the sequel. He's explained that he researched the first film for nearly 10 years and could stand by every word and detail in the first film. The sequel, he says, expands beyond Kerala. He said, I cannot rely on WhatsApp forwards or newspaper reports. Therefore, I decided not to direct the Kerala Story 2. He stressed that sensitive subjects require deep research and long study. Well, the Kerala Story 2 trailer is out and it's going to be released on February 17th, but seems like it's run into legal hurdles. We've got to wait and watch what the court says. Thanks very much for tuning in. Have a great night.
With the lights dim, legends of cuisine and mixology rise. This is where hospitality meets honor. From iconic hotel bars to unforgettable dining experiences. From chefs who redefine taste to leaders who shape the future of hospitality. Celebrating excellence behind the bar and brilliance beyond the kitchen. Classic, contemporary, chic. Where heritage meets innovation, recognizing the names that set the benchmark and the spaces that define food, hotels, restaurants, lounges, bars. This is not just an award night. This is a salute to the Knights of Nightlife and Hospitality. Lounge Nights Awards, honoring the best, elevating the night. Radico presents Lounge Nights Awards 2026, co-powered by Morpheus. Style partner, Mia by Tanishq. An initiative by News 9.